Hello, we're going to be making Seedjacks today. Now Seedjacks are a savoury, crispy, flapjack-like snack, but they also double up as a kind of meal bar. They've got all sorts of things in them, so they're a complete meal in themselves, especially if you're in a hurry and you just need something to keep you going. So we've got a selection of vegetables here and some seeds, and we've got cheese, so I've used cheddar cheese there, and eggs, and that's basically all the ingredients. So we're going to start with a carrot there. I leave the peel on the vegetables because you've got more goodness underneath the skin. You get more fibre, and also you're wasting less food. If you look at the volume of stuff that you throw away when you peel vegetables, it's quite a lot. So you can save on your food bills by keeping the peel on as well. So in a minute I'm just going to be grating this carrot and then chopping up the onion. You can make this with a food processor, which makes it very quick and easy, but I'm doing it by hand here because I want you to see that actually all you need is a grater and a knife, and you can still make these, and they're just as good. The vegetables that I've chosen this time are carrot, sweet potato, beetroot, onion and kale. It's nice to have a bit of onion in because that always goes very nicely with the cheese. You can use feta cheese instead of cheddar, and the cheese and the eggs are what hold it together at the end, so they're quite an important part of the recipe. You can make it without cheese, and you need a bit more egg, and you need some seasoning because cheese obviously adds a bit of saltiness and savouriness. The kale there, some of it is not the best quality, but Seedjacks are a great way of using up vegetables that you think, oh, they're still edible, but they don't look that fantastic. So you can still get something out of them by making Seedjacks. And you can freeze them, which is fantastic. You can either freeze the uncooked mixture, or you can freeze them when they're cooked, and they'll defrost very quickly. If you took one out in the morning, it would easily be ready for lunchtime. They make a great accompaniment for salads and soups, and especially as a lot of things like soup, not having a lot of protein with it. So having a Seedjack adds a bit of protein. You've got the goodness from the seeds as well. And I calculated that the amount of protein in a Seedjack, which uncooked weight is 130 grams, you get about 17 grams of protein, which is pretty useful. So I've got a beetroot there, and again I've left the peel on, and we'll grate that, and then we'll come back in a minute. So this basic recipe uses proportion. You can scale up the proportions. So you have 100 grams of vegetables, 100 grams of cheese, and 100 grams of seeds, mixed seeds, and then you have 1 egg per 100 gram mixture. What I'm doing here, I'm using 4. So I'm using 400 grams of veg, 400 grams of cheese, and 4 eggs, and 400 grams of seeds. And so you can start off with a very small mixture, and you can make mini Seedjacks if you wanted to, or you can scale it up and make a big batch, put some in the freezer. So you can see even the bits that didn't grate, I'm chopping them up there, put them in. You don't want to waste anything if you don't have to. And then there's the onion, and so the onion gets chopped up. I'm not very good at chopping things finely. You can see it's kind of smallish, but not fine, and that's perfectly adequate. There we go, that goes into the bowl. And as you can see, I'm not a chef, I'm a home cook. So my techniques are not that great, but they'll be the same as most people's watching this, I guess, which is fine. Makes it more doable. There we go. So I've used a red onion there, but you can use a white onion. You could use spring onions. You could use a leek. Anything with an oniony flavour. And if you wanted to put even more in, you could put garlic. You could add some herbs if you wanted to. This is kind of the most basic mixture. You could also add sort of curry spices and things and make it, more like a bhaji, which would be interesting. You can do it without cheese if you want to, But if you do that, you need more eggs because the cheese is part of what makes the things stick together. The texture will be slightly different, and you will need some seasoning like some bouillon powder or some salt and pepper and some herbs. So there's the kale going in now. And then once this is in, we'll be grating the cheese. Lots of grating here. But actually this did only take 15 minutes from start to finish. So it doesn't actually take that long. And as I said, if you have a food processor, you can do this really quickly. You just put the vegetables in the food processor with the cheese and the normal blade, and you just whiz it up together. And then you tip that out into a bowl and mix your seeds and your eggs in. So that's very, very quick. That only takes a couple of minutes. So I'm using the stalks of the kale there as well. So the stalks have lots of goodness in. We have a tendency to throw these bits away, but do try and use them as much as you can. And by chopping them finely, they're not so tough, but in a Seedjack they'll be cooked and they'll be not noticed. So they are a great way as well of getting people in your family to eat vegetables that they might not normally choose, especially the green stuff. So it's quite good. They make a great snack for, say, after school, or you can make small ones as nibbles to have with drinks. And because it's decent protein quantity, and it's kind of complex carbohydrates, no refined carbohydrates in there. It's a good blood sugar balancing food as well. So there we go with the cheese. That's probably the most tedious bit of it, I think. And then we're nearly there, and we'll be making up the Seedjack soon. So it's a bit, it does take more time, but as I said, it's not that long. You could always watch this at faster speed as well if you wanted to. I do like to when I'm making things and creating recipes, I do like to try and make them without expensive or fancy kitchen equipment, so that it is something that anybody can do. So I'm trying to do that with all my recipes to make sure that they are more accessible. And I will always try and give tips about how to save money and stuff. What we are looking at though is nutrient density, which means, you know, for every mouthful that you eat, how much nutrition are you actually getting in there? And that's the focus of my recipes, as well, of course, as making them taste nice. So here we've got a nice mixture of the cheese and the vegetables, just all mixing together by hand. And actually, I've often thought this looks a bit like a salad, and it could be quite an interesting salad with a bit of dressing. And when I was making them, it reminded me of one of my children. I used to make her carrot and grated cheese sandwiches, which was a nice thing too. So you could do something like that too. Yeah, it's quite pretty. And the seeds go in. So that's a mixture of pumpkin seeds, sunflower, sesame and linseeds. And people often say, well, which is the best seed? And I would always say a mixture is the best, because all seeds, like all vegetables, all nuts, they all have different nutrient profiles. And so if you have a mixture, you're getting the most out of your food that you can possibly get. So if you can do the mixture, do. But otherwise, if you've only got sunflower seeds, make them with sunflower seeds. I would just suggest you have a go at making the Seedjacks, and then you can adapt as you like. I've also made these with leftover cooked vegetables, and also leftover salads. When I used to have a shop, if there was some, say, carrot and beetroot salad, that would go in. And yes, what I would also say is avoid the wet vegetables, things like courgettes and tomatoes, because then they'll go soggy, and you want something that's nice and crispy and savoury. So you could put sun-dried tomatoes in, that would work. So we've got some eggs there. There's 4 going in. I think earlier I said that it was a 400-gram mixture. So I'm going to try it with 3 eggs first, because often the bigger the mixture, the less eggs you need. So what I'm going to do is mix this together now, see how sticky it is, and if it sticks together enough, that's fine. And if it doesn't, we'll add another egg, and you'll see. So I'm mixing it with my hands. I always find it's the best way to mix things together. It makes it more thorough. Obviously not things like cake mixtures. So you can see that it's not really sticking together there. So yeah, so put them into patties and they'll fall apart. So I'm going to stick another egg in and then that will work. And while we've been doing this, the oven has been heating up to 180 degrees, 180 centigrade that is. So we'll be able to put them in the oven pretty quickly. So when I was making these in the shop, things had to be a standard size. So the raw mixture was 130 grams. And what I've got here is a baking tray with a silicone sheet on it. When I first started making these, I used to grease a baking sheet just with some oil, but they were very sticky and they were very difficult to get off. So then I started using baking parchment, which you can also use, but the silicone sheets are great because you can just reuse those. So I'm making like a handful of mixture into a ball, putting it on the tray and then spreading it, just patting it down with my hands. Okay, and I think I'll probably get about 5 on that tray. And then what we'll be doing is putting it in the oven for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, we're going to squish it down, and then put it back in the oven for about another 20 minutes till they're all nice and crispy. And then they're ready. So you'll see, they look quite pretty, nice colours. And the colours will vary according to which vegetables you have. It's quite handy to have some root vegetables, a bit of onion and something green. And as I say, you can use leftover vegetables. Things like broccoli stalks are quite good. So you can put them in if people don't like eating those. And actually, when I made a broccoli salad with the stalk would go in the salad, but I would peel the outer part of the stalk off because that was a bit too tough for a salad, and that would go in my Seedjack mix. So that's quite a handy way of using stuff that you don't really want to throw away. It is actually very good for you if you eat them. So there we are, we've got 5 on the tray now. And just get as much mixture off my hands as I can. Just give it a wash. So then the oven's on. That's going to go into the oven now. So they've been in for 10 minutes. Take them out. Glass is steamed up, as they always do, because I forget. And then you can see I've got a slice there, and I'm just going to press them down. And what that does is it compresses the mixture, and it makes them a little bit, I think, it makes them a little bit more crispy and a bit more enjoyable. And the cheese sort of squeezes out, so you get nice bits of cheese on the edge as well. Then that's going to go back in for about 20 minutes until they're nice and browned and crispy. There we go again, already. Steamed up glasses again, because I still didn't remember. So there they go. So they're a bit soft when they first come out of the oven, but as they cool, they set, and then they're nice, crispy and ready to go. And the smell when they're cooking is really lovely. Nice toasted cheese smell and savoury from the onions and the vegetables. So there we go, those are Seedjacks. I do hope you've been inspired to have a go and make them, and I'd be very interested to hear how you get on and what vegetables you find you like. Here's the recipe, and those are the steps that you go through. So I hope you enjoy that. Thank you for watching, and do let me know how you get on.